Hey, welcome to the Aloha Friday Marketing Jam Session. Tom Gaddis here. I'm flying sort of solo today. We have a special guest. I'm excited to bring her out, Liz McKenna. We're going to get to her in a few minutes. She's had an amazing week. We're going to talk about how she did it, some of the struggles she went through. You guys are going to love it. It's going to be an all-around great show. We're going to do some shout-outs. We're going to take your questions. It's just going to be a lot of fun. So why don't you grab a cool drink? I got my bubbly or AHA water. I thought it was bubbly. AHA water right here. And I'm going to cue the intro and I'll see you guys back here in just a momento.
It's now time. The moment you've been waiting for. Get ready for the fastest 60 minutes of marketing strategies and tactics to build your remote empire from anywhere in the world. After 167 agonizing hours, they've finally returned. From the sun-soaked Sin City and the sandy shores of Maui, Hawaii, now back for a brand new Aloha Marketing Jam Session. It's your hosts, the Offline Sharks and Remote Millionaires, Tom Gaddis and Nick Ponte.
Oh, yeah. Listen to you, crowd out there. I love it. Here, we'll cue that down. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Let's see who all's hanging out in the chat. I see some Facebook users. If you go and grant StreamYard permission, I can see who you are. Dorn says he's not here. I see you, Dorn. What's up, Cameron? Bill Stanley. Welcome. Yeah. A nice little, hey, James. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I don't know if you guys remember that. This black shirt reminds me. I don't know if you ever saw that Saturday Night Live sketch. Now's the time on Sprockets when we dance. That's what I feel like in this shirt. Welcome, welcome. Yep. Yeah, no worries. No worries. Welcome, everybody. Aloha. Welcome, welcome. Excited. We have a great show today. We're going to be talking to Liz McKenna, who's one of our Remote Millionaires members. And I think Liz is also in the Shark Alliance. Were you in the Shark Alliance too, Liz? Yeah. Okay. Awesome. And she's coming to Remote Millionaires, and we've been working with her over the past few weeks. She had an amazing week last week. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what she's been doing, what services she's doing, all that kind of stuff. It's going to be a really great show. I know you guys are going to love it. Before we get to Liz, though, we do have a few things to get going with right off the bat. So we're going to start off with some Shark shout outs, and I'm going to pull up the list here. Marcus. What's up? Welcome, Marcus. Yeah, I could. Welcome to the new iPhone. Yeah. Awesome. All right. So let me share my screen here. We're going to do the shout outs. I'm going to do our member of the week, and then we're going to bring Liz out, and we're just going to have a chat. I wish I had a fireplace going in the background. Liz, we could do like a fireside chat, but I don't have the technical skill to do that. So here, I'm going to share my screen here. All right, let's get this ball rolling with some Shark shout-outs. So every week we like to celebrate the wins in our community. So if you have a win, post it in the Facebook group, and we can feature you on the Shark shout-outs as well. Had a lot of stuff going on. It's been an amazing year so far, and we'll talk a little bit about what's coming up towards the end of the year, the beginning of the year, all that stuff as well. So let's get the ball rolling with Wesley Crick. Wesley got his first win on his first day joining Remote Millionaires. He got a one-page mini site. It's $150 a month recurring, $1,500 for 2023 spring email marketing. So Wesley, way to go. I loved it when you got in there and you posted that win right off the bat. It was awesome to see. So way to hit the ground running, my friend, and excited to have you in the program. Looking forward to seeing what you do moving forward. So congratulations, Wesley. Ash Butler got a small site redesign for a local property developer, 699 pounds. So that's 800 US, plus content copywriting fee. So great job. Great job, Ash. Great job. Our next shout out goes to Sandy Alexander. Sandy sold a basic social media posting for $99 a month. She bartered a free site in exchange for a review, which is a great strategy, especially if you're new and you're trying to get some traction and get some things going. She got a $25 tip. Then she upsold a review system for $150, and she got a 5-star review and video testimonial out of the deal. So really great win, Sandy. Awesome to see that. Awesome to see that. Mr. Marvin Drove signed 2 new clients for Google branding ads. So $299 setup fee plus $149 monthly management fee. Marvin's been posting some wins lately, crushing it in there. So awesome work, Marvin. Awesome work. Oh, sorry about that. Let me close this off here. We just did Marvin. Our next shout out goes to Akin and his wife, Tara. They sold a couple of packages, a website creation, $665, a chat widget install, $197, a chess website redesign, $750, and a display ad client for $1,474. It's funny because Akin and his wife, they've been kind of quiet in their Remote Millionaires chat with us. And I just checked in with them the other day and I was like, hey, it's been kind of quiet. Is everything okay? He's like, man, we've just been so busy. And now I see why. Look at those wins. Awesome, awesome work, Akin. Awesome work. Clint Whitney took a client from $529 to $1,100 a month adding Google ads. So way to upsell there, Clint. That's awesome work. Another Remote Millionaires. A lot of movers and shakers inside RM. So really great work, Clint. Really great work. Our next shout out goes to Liz McKenna, our guest for the day. This is what she had going on, and this is what we're going to talk about. She sold 2 home services jackpot websites, $200 and $300 respectively. She sold a Shopify refresh for $2K. She sold a third home services jackpot site with an added photo gallery for $700. And we're going to talk about the strategy she's using there, what she's been doing, some of the things we told her. And if any of you have home services jackpot, you're going to want to really pay attention to that because that is a killer strategy that we leverage a lot in RM with members and just crushing it, people inside there with that strategy. So congratulations, Liz. We'll talk about that here in just a minute. And then Nick Ponte posted a small win, $500 a month SEO plan to a sandwich shop by way of a cold call. So a cold call from our sales team closed that deal. So awesome job, Nick. Nick is not here this week because he's in Nicaragua. He's been there for a week surfing with some buddies. And I've seen some of the pictures and stuff. It's been awesome. So, that's a lot of what we focus on here, right? Helping you guys get to that point where you can have a business that operates and runs while you go do the things you enjoy. Not saying we don't work. We do work a lot, just so you know, as Liz can attest here in a minute, but it pays off in the long run. So congratulations. So for those of you that are keeping track at home, that is a combined total of $11,024 for the week of October 29th through November 4th. That brings our grand total for 2022 to $1,278,370 since the start of the year. That's all you guys. That's all you going out there, taking action, doing what we do, right? Closing deals. And man, it makes me super proud to see that number. I'm really proud of all of the wins we've had over the year, the ones on this show. I mean, really excellent work, everybody. So congratulations. And one thing that I meant to mention a couple of weeks ago, because I know we made a post about this in the Facebook group. I'm going to stop sharing. Let me see if I have a link to this because I want to make sure that I share this. I do not have a link to it, but I want to give a big shout out to JT Trusdell. So JT crossed the 100K mark in his agency, and it has been an amazing journey to watch him go on. JT came into Remote Millionaires about 8 months ago, maybe getting close to 9 months now. And he had no recurring revenue. I think he maybe had one client. And over the course of the next few months, he is just like taken tons of action and crushed it. And now he's doing over 100K in his agency. So JT, welcome to the 100K club, my friend. Awesome to see you there, and love the traction you're getting. So there's a link in the comments there. If you guys can go there and tell JT, great job. We love to celebrate that win. There's a couple of big milestones when you're growing an agency, right? When you get that first client, when you get those first little bits of recurring revenue, and then of course when you cross that 100K mark, it's a really big deal. So really, really great job, JT. Another megalodon in the group. So really awesome to see that. So congratulations, JT. I know there's a graphic in there. Maybe can I click on this link? No, it won't let me click on the link. But anyway, awesome. Awesome. So congratulations, JT. Maybe you guys can blow it up, tell them congratulations in the chat here too. We like to blow up people's social media feeds on this show. Awesome. One more thing I want to do before we bring out our special guest, and that is, well, actually two things, because I saw this in the show notes and I had forgotten about it. So we've got a couple of things. One is we had a costume contest. I don't know if you guys knew that. We ran one in the Facebook group, and we had a couple of entries. Let me pull them up here. I'm going to pull them up so we can see them. So we got two winners here. Let me pull up this other one. Hold on. My computer's running kind of slow there. There we go. All right. So I'm going to share my screen again, and I want to give a big shout out to these two lovely ladies for participating and the awesome costume shares. So first is Kristen. Let me make sure. Let me make sure that I have this right. Hold on. Yep. Darla Weaver. So this is Darla. Darla has sporting the awesome Catwoman costume. I love the fur around the collar. That's great. That mask is awesome. And then Kristen Bedard shared this. I loved this one too. This was great. Cousin It. Loved it. Loved it. So congratulations to those two. The team's going to be reaching out to you. I know we had some prizes. I don't have them quite handy, but the team will get you out there and get you sorted. So thanks for participating in that. Really appreciate it. It's fun to see those costumes. So great job. And then finally, I want to celebrate our member of the week this week. So, no, we don't have a member of the week this week. Okay. Well, next week, get in the Facebook group, contribute, be a good steward of our community, and we can focus you as the member of the week. We give away this little shark treasure chest you see over my shoulder here. No member of the week this week, but awesome job to all the shout out winners and also our costume contest winners. So great work. Great work. All right, let me look at the chat here, and then we are going to bring, oh, hey, Randy, Dennis, lots of more people in here. Teresa, Enrique, welcome. Who else is down there? Jacqueline, welcome, Jacqueline. James, awesome. So our guest today is Liz McKenna, and I'm going to let Liz talk about this journey because it has been quite the ride the past few weeks. And I really want to dive into some details and hopefully help others on this call. If you're facing some of the same challenges or trying to do some of the same things, I think Liz is going to have some really great insight that can help you push through, get over the hump, and start making some progress. So let's give a big Sharks warm welcome for Liz McKenna. Listen to that crowd, Liz. Listen to that crowd. They are going nuts out there. That's great. Awesome. Welcome, Liz.
Well, hello. I'm very excited to talk about, that little hump that I, overcame.
Yeah. We'll talk about that for sure.
Yeah.
I know it's been quite the roller coaster of a ride the past few weeks. And I know too, you actually got to meet up with a fellow shark in New York. Richie Cronin was out there, right? You guys had coffee?
Yes, we met for coffee just a couple blocks from Times Square. So if Richie's on the call, hello.
Yeah, I don't know if I haven't seen him on here yet, but yeah, hopefully he's there. Yeah, Richie was in New York. Liz said he was shooting a video for a client in Times Square and doing some things there.
Yep. And visiting some friends as well. And, I'm just a short train ride in, and I'm like, he told me he was going to be in town, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to come out to Times Square.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's
Give
awesome.
me an opportunity to get out of my little work hole and
it's good to step away sometimes, right? Especially after, look, this hasn't just been a roller coaster of a ride in terms of hard work, but it's also been kind of an emotional roller coaster of a ride. And I want to talk a little bit about that because I think it's something that, I know we do talk about it, but I don't know if we talk about it enough because building a business is stressful, right? It's stressful trying to get traction, trying to get all that stuff. Some weeks, days, months, it just feels like you're just doing and no progress, no results. So maybe you can, why don't we just start at the beginning? So I know, how long have you been in Remote Millionaires?
I started August 17th.
So you started August 17th. And what was your situation when you started in Remote Millionaires?
So I was just walking away from a toxic business venture, and I was building a digital agency, and I had to kind of go off and do my own thing. And so I knew this is what I wanted to do. And, I was putting in so many hours all day, every day. And I've been in a coaching program before years ago. And when I was building an e-commerce business, and I know the value and importance around being people who've done it before, who are doing the same thing as you. And I got involved with Shark Alliance, and I loved all the content. I loved, like, it's just a treasure trove of content. I'm like, oh, and this and this. And I was just like, it's a lot of really great information. And so when it came time to talk to someone about Remote Millionaires, I was ready to go. I was like, okay, I'm going to do this because, I just love being in that environment. And so I've already been talking to people. And when I first joined Remote Millionaires, people that I've been talking to for like months finally came around, and they're like, okay, let's start working. But then, how when you first start something, you have this excitement and you're going. And I forget who writes about this, but I think it's something Godin. He's a really big marketer.
That's Godin.
Godin or something like that. But he talks about the dip. And I definitely had the dip because I was working from sun up to sundown. And I'm like, why am I not getting any clients? Why am I not going anywhere? And it was the reason was my fault, is because I wasn't doing my RPAs. Like, it literally all comes down to RPAs. I was building the AGM website. I was building this. I was building that. I was building all of the teams, but I wasn't just talking to people. And so I messaged the Slack channel in this moment of exasperation. I'm just like, I need to figure this out. And we got on a call, and I was stressed. I was so stressed.
Well, it was interesting when we were going through that part. So first, let me back up first. Like, so you had an e-commerce business. What kind of services were you doing in the beginning? Weren't you doing like email marketing mainly?
Yeah, so I did email marketing for a really long time for political campaigns, nonprofits, unions. I was more in the activist space, but I needed to switch gears because there's a ton of tire kickers in that space, and there's a lot of big sharks in that space. So instead of competing for the few people who aren't tire kickers in that space, I decided to switch into local and small businesses because there's tons.
Yeah, and I think you shared with me too that like in that space as well, like the time of like getting a job and doing it and time to payment can be a very long, drawn out process.
Yeah,
and it's like super frustrating, right?
Yeah, because they typically have boards, and they need to vote on everything. And even if a contract is approved, they still have to vote on paying the contracts. And I'm kind of sick of waiting, especially in the beginning when every penny really counts. I'm trying to build a team. I'm trying to, so it's a little stressful.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned that call. So what was interesting is Liz was doing all the right things inside Remote Millionaire. She was taking, I know you were building a lot of stuff. You were also doing some prospecting, although you really did not want to get on the phone and call people. You were like, anything but that.
I was pretty dead set. I was pretty dead set on that.
You're like, no, anything but that. And I know she talks about the moment of exasperation because she's talking about doing this and doing that and sending out all these things and not getting results. And, as coaches, we're like, hey, just, keep a good attitude, keep pushing forward. It's going to happen. And Liz was having none of that. She was like, listen, like, I don't need, just keep going. But like, that really is like in hindsight. I mean, I hope you kind of see like, and I know recently you had some of those older projects, things that you were working on months ago come through, like, and I've said this before on the show, we really don't know when the work we're doing today is going to pay off, or even if it's going to pay off, right? Like, there's so many variables in all of that stuff that we cannot control. We can do our best to do our best job, to put our best foot forward, to do all the right things, but there's so many things from the prospect side that we just can't control. And the only thing we really can control is our ability to just keep going and the number of people we reach out to. And when things aren't working, I know it's frustrating from your side because it's like, well, I'm trying all these things. And then, we have lots of questions like, well, how many people are you reaching out to? Like, what kind of responses are you getting? Where do you feel like, and I know for me, I was always just I tend to think like, well, if I'm doing something and it's not working, it must be the thing I'm doing. Right. Like, so I'm trying to find something new to do. And the reality is I really need to be honing in on what I'm doing. Like really taking deep looks at, well, are people opening my emails? Are they even responding? When they respond, what are they saying? Where do I feel like I'm dropping where the ball's getting dropped or where I can improve that process? And that can be, I will be upfront with everybody, that can be very tedious work. And you feel like, well, how's this going to pay off? But it's super valuable to just stick with those things and really try to refine your process and get better and better. And so maybe you can talk about, like, we had that call and we were talking about what can we do? So I was like, look, maybe we should try this home services jackpot thing. And for those of you that don't know, HSJ, as we like to abbreviate it, is they're a set of pre-built websites. So we have a set of pre-built websites. They're all in the home services niche. And basically what we do is we find people that don't have websites. You can also target people that need website refreshes. And we just reach out to them and we say, hey, I noticed you didn't have a website. I have this site, and you can sell them for, as you did, those two that we mentioned in the shout outs, $200 and $300, but they're so easy to set up because they're pretty much done. All the content's there. It's just a good way to get some traction. And I know you're a little resistant to it at first, but maybe you can talk about, like, what did you start doing there? Like, did you pick a specific niche and start going off? Maybe just tell us a little bit about that process.
Yeah. So as soon as we got off the phone, I made a list of like 10, 15 contractors in my neighborhood to call. And I immediately called them. They were probably, I think people stayed on the phone because they felt bad because I was so awkward on the phone. But
Right.
Then, a week goes by because I had to travel for a wedding and stuff. And then when I was finally back, I was like, you know what? I am going to go in and I'm going to call a whole bunch of people. And for me, a lot of people is 200. So I called 200. There were people who were interested, but I still didn't close any. And the following week, I was like, this isn't working. This isn't working. But I kept calling, but people started getting back to me. The people that I left voicemails and all that they started coming back to me. And then I started to see like, oh, this has compounding effects. So now I can actually see that if I were to just call 200 people a week over the course of a few weeks, a few months, that could have just like leaps and bounds in what I'm trying to build. And the key word is build, right? Like I need to build it brick by boring brick. And this is just a part of it, right? Like there's a reason why big companies like Microsoft and Oracle, they have sales teams that literally do this because it works. Inbound marketing is its own thing, but you kind of I needed to get over it, like you can't really have a business and not want to talk to people because you're no longer that CEO, you are an employee, and I want to be a business owner, not an employee. Not that there's anything wrong with being an employee, but I mean, you might as well stay an employee and at least have a steady paycheck.
Yeah. Right? Well, it's interesting that you said that because it is. You said brick by boring brick, which is a great way to say it because it does seem kind of boring at the time you're doing it. And as much as we try to find ways around cold calling and all that kind of stuff, I mean, I can point to several RM members who just put their head down and did it and got results. Cause it really is when you're in a situation and you need to generate income as quickly as possible, it really is the fastest way to get there. I mean, all of that other stuff is great too. And there's a place for it and it does work, but it typically takes a lot longer time, especially in today's competitive digital age. But one of the interesting things that I got from what you were sharing about what you did with the home services jackpot. So what types of people did you contact first? Did you start with like what niche did you start with?
Yeah, I started with electricians mostly because my father had an electrical business growing up. And, if I ever needed to, like, just like talk shop with people, I could talk about like, playing in my dad's trucks and all that, whatever.
Yeah.
But I chose that. And I was like, you know what? I don't know anything about home services. I mean, I used to work with construction unions, but that was in like a different space. And I'm like, I wouldn't have anything to talk to them about. So I just picked something that was really familiar to me. But I've noticed that I've never needed to have that, I don't need to know about electrical companies
Yeah.
to get them to.
Well, that's an interesting lesson in and of itself, right? Because I know the way my brain works. Whenever I make a decision to do something, my brain starts concocting all the things, all the ways it can go wrong. And I think I need to have answers and solutions to all of those. But what if they ask this? But what if they ask that? But what if they say this? But what if they say that? And that can really result in not taking action because you're trying to figure out things that haven't even happened yet, And a lot of times when you just start doing it, sometimes you find that some of those things you were worried about never even happen. But also too, you discover like other things that come up that you do have to figure out. But it's a much different, it's a much different animal when when you realize what the issue is and you're working to fix it versus just trying to do it on an imagined process, right? Like, because it normally never goes the way you imagine it. What is your typical outreach conversation look like for these people?
So it's actually rapidly changing because the more calls I do, the more comfortable I get. And so the first calls, I thought that everyone was going to think I was just like green-eyed monster, and they just all wanted to hang up on me. So my initial approach was just word vomit on the phone. Hi, my name is Liz, and I'm giving away a website. Are you interested? Just like more words than that. And then over time, I realized that people weren't going to burn me at the stake. So I actually started to slow down. But I'm going through all of the not all of the different pitches, but different pitches until I land on one that feels comfortable. But also with Lucy's calls, like she gives some really great examples of how to slow the conversation down, how to like ask for permission during the conversation. And I've started to implement those. And someone actually called me today and I implemented one of those. I was like, hey, and normally I would never say this because I think people would say no and then hang up. I said, hey, do you have a couple minutes so I can tell you a little bit about what we're doing to help local businesses set up a website? It was more congruent than that. And the guy was like, yeah, definitely. I'd love to hear more about that. And like, hopefully my shock didn't translate over the phone. But in my head, I was like, wow, okay, that did work.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because getting to that point, you talked about, not wanting to do the calls in the beginning and having that fear and all that stuff and being nervous when you're first making the calls. And it's really hard to even remember to do any of that stuff when you have that going on. So there is a process in the beginning of where you just have to do the action, right? You just have to do the action, do the action, do the action, do the action. And your body starts to kind of slow down and you go, okay, all right, this isn't as like hectic as I thought it was going to be. And you're able to think a little more clearly, but that really only happens when you're doing, right? When you're like doing it day in and day out. Yeah. And then you kind of start to have a little bit of fun, which, it's hard to believe when you're sitting there and you don't want to do it in the first place. You're like, this can't be fun, And I think as long as you have the goal long-term to pass it off to, like, you don't want to be doing this forever, but like you can do it for now for the situations you're in. And, because you put in the work, I think you said you had like a $9,500 a week, right?
I did. Yes. But it's also the first of the month. So there are some retainers there.
That's great.
Not all of that was retainers. One was, 3 of them were the HSJ sites. And the the other one was a 2000 website Shopify redesign for a friend of mine that I actually did free work for him at the beginning of the year. And the work that I did at the beginning of the year helped him have the best season of his like career doing this. And he's like, oh, all right, Liz. He came back to me and he was just like, all right, let's refresh my website. He's like, I trust you, this, that. But and it just goes to show like things do come back around. If you lead with value, if you just calm down. I'm not telling you to calm down. I'm calling myself to calm down.
Yeah.
But it's just like it will come around if you are consistent. Like you can't fail if you are consistent. Because
well, and
go ahead.
oh no, go ahead.
Because several things are going to happen. You're going to get better at your pitch. One, you're going to get better at your pitch. Two, you're just going to grow your sphere of influence with the people that you're talking with. And three, it's just going to get to a point where you are now growing your network. And so people always say, I know it's cliche, but like your network is connected to your net worth is connected to your network. And it's, I'm so comfortable just sitting behind the computer and doing work all day, every day, figuring out this thing and figuring out that thing. But, over time, putting in the reps of talking to people, you can't help but get better at it. At least that's my opinion.
Yeah, no,
I can do it.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely true. And, also too, when you realize that's not as scary as you thought, it makes it easier. And you also are very committed to delivering results for your clients. So like you can feel confident in what you're doing because you're going to do your best to do a good job. Like you are committed to good customer service, right? And that's a really important part of it too. Hold on one second. I got to open my office door. My dog is like barking because my wife left and he knows I'm in here. Hold on.
He wants to be part of the conversation.
Yeah. He's like standing outside the door, like, let me in. I know you're in there. Yeah. So I know we have a couple of questions from people and I want to get to some of these because I know you've been evolving the script and trying different things and doing new stuff like that. But let's go back to the very first step, which was when you're talking about prospecting, your first step is always building the list. And I know as marketers, we tend to complicate the heck out of even just that simple step, right? Like, oh, well, I need thousands of leads. I need all this. But you mentioned earlier, you started with how many? 15?
Yeah, it was somewhere around 10 or 15, I forget. But after we spoke on the phone, I immediately just went to Google Maps and I made myself a list in the span of probably 10 minutes. And I immediately got on the phone. Because like after our conversation, it kind of energized me to just do it. I'm like, you know what? I got to rip off the Band-Aid and just do it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and that strategy of just going to Google and looking for those people, like you said, I mean, you got 15, 20 people in 10 minutes. It seems like it's kind of like a not scalable thing, but we're not really interested in scalable at this point, right? We're interested in wins and traction. And I think that's a distinction that a lot of people struggle with because obviously we all want scalable processes. We all want a business that, that we have help running, that has systems and processes in place. But there really is kind of a step before that of where we just need to get some traction. And when you're in the need to get some traction phase, you really just have to do whatever it takes to do that. You have to try to turn your brain off as much as you can about, well, is this scalable? Is it? Because I used to think that too, right? Like, well, I can't do this outreach method because it's not scalable. Like, well, like at this point, scalable is not really our concern. Our concern is traction, wins, and cash flow, right? So, yeah. So you made the list through Google. How are you building your list now? Because I know you're doing like 200 a week. What are you using now to build them?
So I'm still doing it myself on Google, mostly because I like tinkering around and clicking around. But eventually I'm going to outsource that. And so I'm going to find someone and I'm going to give them a specific criteria of what I'm looking for. Eventually I'm going to outsource that, but to come up with a list of, let's say, 200 people. I mean, my internet's pretty slow, but if you have like really fast internet, you can do, I think you can do that within like an hour and a half. And I always love listening to audiobooks and podcasts. So it's just like, it's become an enjoyable thing. I just turn on a podcast and I just like sit on Google Maps and just copy and paste.
Great. Yeah, that's great. That's great. I know Sandy wanted to know, I mean, she was asking about where you get your leads from, but she also wanted to know, like, and I think this is an interesting thing too, because when we think about talking to potential prospects, one of the first things that goes up is objections, right? Like what objections they have, objections there. So let's talk about this a little bit, because when you initially get there are two things that really helped me with cold outreach, and especially on the phone. And one is that you're really just looking to find people that are interested. So you're not really concerned about the people that are going to ho-hum or give you flack or whatever. You're really just trying to get to the interested people as quickly as possible. So do you is there like something you look for in that initial outreach? Like, how do you wrap up the call, or do you find people that have objections like right off the bat? Or is it typically more of like, they're either interested or they're not interested? And if they're not, you just move on to the next person. And if they are, then you kind of proceed there.
So when it comes to people not being interested, the most common people not being interested are people actually who are retiring. And, you know, of all like the no, I'm not interested, it's like the person who's like, look, I only have a couple more months left with this. Like, and so I'm not going to sell them on that, because I don't know what their future plans are with like selling a company, and I can't really help them with that. And so, and then with the other people who are not interested, they don't really give you objections. They're just like, I'm not interested. They're like not even annoyed. Like, and I can hear like a phone ringing in the background. Like, they're not it's not about you. It's just like, the phones are ringing. I'm just not interested. And, you know, the first couple times it made me a little bit defeated, not too much. But the more calls I made, the more I realized like there are people who are just like, you know what? I bought a domain 2 years ago and I still haven't put my website up. And so you run into a lot of people because they're too busy on the job site, or the people in their office, they don't know digital marketing. And so it's actually pretty frequent when someone is just like, oh, you know what? Now's not the time, but can you call me back tomorrow? Or like, actually, like, yeah, I do have a couple minutes right now. Can you tell me about that? And so there are quite a few people who are interested.
Yeah. And I think that's great, because one of the things that was really hard for me to learn was like, you shouldn't be making a pitch to everybody. Like, and we've shared this in some of our earlier trainings. We had a thing where I talked about prospecting is all about being a detective, right? You're really just looking for a person that needs what you're offering, that looks like a good fit. When you get on the phone, that's what you're trying to do. Like, is this a person I should make a pitch to? And not everyone is a person you should or even want to make a pitch to. Like, you want to be more picky and choosy. One of my favorite sayings is, everyone is suspect until proven otherwise, right? So like, I go into a call usually with this idea of like, I'm just trying to figure out if it's a good fit, right? Like, I'm really not sure about you, right? Like, let's see if it's a good fit. And then we get to that point. So yeah, I think that's a great tidbit. And the people that you follow up with, you just follow up with, right?
Yeah, I follow up with a lot of people. And this is actually something funny that I ran into. I was talking to someone who mans the phones in the office, and we had a really great conversation. And she's out because she's sick for a couple weeks, and I didn't realize she was sick. I ended up calling into the location, and the owner picked up. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm calling because I spoke to, I forget what her name was. And we spoke about the website. I told him all about the website. He's just like, and he like deferred it back to her. He's like, yeah, she's in charge of all of that. Yeah. And, you know, sometimes we talk about the gatekeepers in this instance.
Well, in the construction business, a lot of those I mean, those guys are swamped with stuff, right? They're managing crews. They got all kinds of things going on. Like they hand that stuff off for a reason, you know, like they don't want to deal with it. They're like, I don't want to deal with that part. So that's awesome. Let's see. Enrique said, first he said, outstanding job. He said, do you have a follow-up sequence or a process to call businesses back that turn you down or say they're not interested, or what do you do? Or are you just moving on and focusing on the interested people right now?
Yeah, I actually haven't thought about reaching back out. I did think about reaching back out to a couple of them because I spoke to someone initially from that business who was interested. And then I called on another day to follow up and they're like, no, I'm not interested. It wasn't the same person.
Yeah.
And so instead of calling back immediately, I'm going to call them a couple more times only because the person that I did speak to was interested. But in terms of like the people who weren't interested, I actually didn't even think of following back up with them. But if you guys recommend following up with them, I might try doing that.
I think that's something that you could definitely add in down the road. And I think this goes back to the point we talked about earlier about scaling and developing the processes, right? Like right now we're focused on traction and revenue. And if you focus on that and you're getting traction and revenue, like follow up will be important, but you add that in gradually. Like it doesn't just, and this goes back to, and when I talk about this, I'm talking about me. My brain says, if I'm going to call people, I need to have this whole intricate follow-up system. Because what if they're not interested? Like that all needs to be worked out before I start doing the calls. But the reality and our experience has been you work that stuff out once you're going, right? Like if you have something in place, that's great. But you don't want to be spending all your time working out this big follow-up sequence and not doing the RPAs, not doing the revenue producing activity. Might as well be doing this, getting some traction. And now you're going to go, well, wait, I'm probably like, okay, I had a $9,500 week last week. There's probably some people that are slipping through the cracks. How can I identify them? What can I do to follow up with them? Those are things that you can layer in as you're getting more traction with them. And I know an interesting thing about what you said in your RM Slack channel was you call and leave, like you've been calling and leaving messages, but a lot of people or a few people have responded via text.
They did.
Yeah. Talk about that for a minute. Cause I think that's interesting. And it led us to recommend you try something, which you're in the process of testing now, but like, talk about that a little bit. So you'll leave a voicemail form. What do you say in the voicemail?
So I tried a couple different pitches. So the first one was that I'm building a new digital agency. I'm in a course right now, and I built this as a part of a course. I would hate for it to go to waste. And it's not that it didn't work. It felt I didn't align with it, and I feel as though people, as you make calls, you'll align with different messages, and it's as much about the message as much as it is how you come across with the message. So I tried that one first. I didn't really feel it. And then I tried, another one where I say, hey, I'm starting a new local digital agency, because I didn't want to lie to people and say like, hey, I'm local. Yeah. Oh, no. I said, I'm building an agency that helps local businesses. So it's not like I'm lying to them, but it also is not like I live on the other coast, but I am calling people up and down the East Coast. But so I just tell them that I'm building a local businesses. And right now, the one that I've been testing out the longest is I currently have 2 options to fit your budget and your needs: a pre-built website, or we can build you a fully custom website. So we'll see how that works. But almost 100% of the time, people are just like, oh, you have a pre-built cheap one? Okay.
Yeah. Like that's a revelation to people. Like they don't even know that really exists, right? Like that's how I sold 4 of those types of sites. This is so Nick and I have used this strategy for a long time, ever since we first got started. And when we were originally doing it, we didn't even have the home service ones. We just had a pre-built website theme, and we would just customize it. And that's the way I sold it in a BNI meeting. I sold 4 in one meeting because I was like, look, I know you need a website and I could build you one, but it's like $3,000. But look, I have this one. Take a look at it. If you like it, I can do it for like $500. And they were like, done. Like, they're just like, I mean, it was just like a no-brainer offer type thing. So when you leave the message and then someone texts you back, what are the texts they're usually sending you? Like, can you send me a link to the site, or what do they say there?
So a lot of time, actually, there were 3 contractors that got back to me on a Saturday. So I called them during the week and they got back to me on a Saturday.
Yep.
And they're like, hey, so sorry, I was busy. I'm interested. Can you send me the site? Another person was like, I'm actually traveling for the next 2 weeks. Can you give me a call? And then we set up a call to get back to them. So there were 3 that called me back then. And then it's mostly because these are people who are on the job site. And so they're just like texting back. They're like, hey, I'm interested to learn more. Can you send me an email? Or yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And one of the tips that you shared with me and with the other RM members that I think is good to share with people here is when you leave the voice message, because you saw that people were responding via text, you now make sure to say in the voicemail, this is my phone number. You can call me back or shoot me a text, right?
Yeah, I say that in every voicemail, because after I got a couple texts back, I was just like, I think people actually like that because it's less telemarketing. Yeah. They're like, oh, so this person, I can actually text them back. Like, they have a phone number that I can text them at.
Yeah, that's so great. And again, there's something that you would never develop if you weren't doing. Because like it took making the calls and then you get some text to recognize like, oh, wait, people are texting. Oh, I should include that and tell them like they can text me. Like maybe that'll open up. And I do agree with you. It does feel much less salesy and evasive, right? Like, because they're nervous about talking to people too. Like they don't want to get on and get hard pitched and all that stuff. And it makes an easy out for them because you can say, look, here's my number, text me, I'll send you the site. You can look at it. Like, nope, no pressure. So that's really great. Let me look down the questions. Sean said, yeah, you just have to rip off the Band-Aid. That's right. Sean also said his brain is trying to protect him by creating fear. Yep. Yeah. That's what it does. That's what it does.
Well, that's why I was running into that problem. Like I told Tom, I was like, I don't want to make any calls. I'm not making any calls, like whatever I can do. And he's like, you can send emails to people. But then I was like, you know what? I need to make money now. And I'm like, okay, what's more important, my fear or being able to make money now?
Well, I'm the same way. That's what it took for me to get over it, was like really being in that place of like, I have to make this work, And one of the quotes that I've been hearing a lot, and a lot of people say it, and you hear it all the time, but I've been seeing it a lot lately, is that quote that like, everything that you want is on the other side of that fear. Mm-hmm. There's the fear. Everything you want is on the other side. You just got to push through it. So awesome. And by the way, so what Liz and I have been talking about her doing, because when she mentioned the texting thing to me, I thought that was super interesting too. And I was like, well, hey, have you thought about just texting people first? Like, why don't we just send them a text and see like if they respond, and maybe we can like cut out some of the calls and get some more actions. And so why don't you share, because you were telling me before we jumped on this call what you did. And so why don't you tell people here what you did and what happened?
Okay. So I was like, okay, because I'm on Go High Level, and I built out a sequence to send to the list that I built, to first send a voicemail and then send a text. And then and I put them through a 2-day sequence, and then I'll get on the phone with them, because what I noticed is 90% of these go to voicemail anyway. So I'm like, let me just get that out of the way. And then if no one gets back to me, then I'll sit on the phone, or my appointment setter will sit on the phone. So I built out this sequence, and I made my list today, and I go to upload my list, and I wanted to drip it. I wanted it to drip little by little, because I knew that it would be just massive chaos. I knew that. And so I messed up. Instead of dripping it like 10 per day, it sent all like 90 of them at once. And what ended up happening is there was just a mad dash of people calling my phone. They're like, "You called me? Hey, this," and just for 10 minutes, it was pure chaos. And it just happened. The one guy that I actually was able to answer his phone, he goes, and of course I'm like frantic because all these people are calling me. I'm like, "Do you have a couple minutes to talk?" And I'm like, "Liz, slow down." And I'm like, "I'm calling you because I noticed you didn't have a website connected to your Google My Business listing. Do you have a couple minutes to talk?" And I'm like, my phone's like buzzing out of my hand.
Yeah.
And he's just like, yeah, I do." And I'm like, "Okay, well," and I gave him my pitch. We have two options. We have one that's fully customizable. We can, work with you to make a fully custom website or a pre-built website. And he's just like, "Oh, I set up a domain 2 years ago and I haven't used it yet." He's like, "Can you send me a link to that?" And it was like my first automated sequence. I messed it up. I completely messed it up. And I still got like a really strong maybe. I'm not going to say I closed one, but it was a strong maybe. And, I think it's just like all of this is just like we're just playing in a sandbox. Like we
Yep.
take this way too seriously. I think it sounds I mean, that's
It's hard though when the bills are due. You feel the
2 weeks
pressure.
ago, I was stressed, but
Not. Let's say my wife texted me, says my mom is in town and I took her down to play in a poker tournament last night and I was actually winning when I was playing. And my wife was like, "You sound like you're in a good mood." And I'm like, "It's always better when you win, honey. Always better when you win. Like, but talk to me when I'm losing." And I'm like, "Oh, this is terrible." Like, it's the same thing with business, right? Same thing with business. But you made it through that stuff. That's the important thing. Like you didn't,
yeah.
because you really had two options, right? You could have either given up or just keep pushing forward, and you kept pushing forward. And then it was like, then just thing after thing starts happening. And then the other day you're like, "Man, when it rains, it pours." Now these people are getting back to me and things are paying off from way before. So, I mean, it's awesome. Enjoy that feeling and remember it, because the time will come again where you're going to be like, "I'm doing all this stuff and nothing's working." Like what, like you have to remember those feelings.
Well, now my biggest thing is building either the teams or the systems while I have the cash flow to make sure that I'm keeping the faucet open, right? Like I need to but don't worry, I'll be in the Remote Millionaires channel trying to figure that out.
That's great. Well, and I think when you mentioned that most of them go to voicemail too, like that could be another interesting thing to test as well. Like, I mean, I'm really anxious to see and excited to see the results of the texting thing. I love the things that you got just by accidentally sending out all 90. That looks good. Those are all good signs that this is probably a good strategy. But maybe even figuring out a way to just do the voicemail drops, right? Where it just is automatically leaving them a voicemail with the message to text if they're interested. That might be something we could test out too as we move forward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Andy wants to know, do you give them prices on the first call, or do you wait until you talk to them? And
so since I'm not a salesperson and I'm super awkward on the phone, I blurt everything out like while I'm on the phone the first time with them. So the first few times I was on the phone with people, I didn't really know my worth yet. Like I even thought people were going to say no to a free website. So for me to quote a $200 website, I'm like, 200 maybe. I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah.
And, so I sold a $200 website. Then I sold a $300 website. So I have been quoting them. Some salespeople who are better at sales might have a different tactic, but me in the beginning, I have been quoting people. And it's like completely based on whether or not, like, if I'm nervous or not. I'm like, I just come up with a number in my head. So I definitely need to work on that. There's definitely better people to ask.
No, I mean, that's good. And by the way, for those of you that don't know, SOW stands for statement of work. That's what Andy's referring to there. But like one of the strategies we talked about in that call we had was, I was like, look, again, we're just trying to get some traction. So, even start low, like you just start making some calls. You quote them 200. And if you sell 2, then raise the price to 300 or raise the price to 500. When you sell 2 more, raise the price again. And I saw in the shout outs, you did a 200 to 300 and now you did a $700 one.
Oh,
right?
I will say, so what happened with the $700 one is, so I sold them at 400 and then they wanted a custom photo gallery. And, I sent them everything and she's like, well, can you do it for 400? I'm like, sure, I can do it for 400, but without the custom photo gallery.
Oh.
And she's like, okay, fine. But they're really convinced on the photo gallery. I think they're trying to haggle me down. So I'm going to give them the website. And, in a couple weeks, I think they are going to want the photo gallery. So it's the reason why I say that is funny because it's still going up in increments. It's still 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
When I spoke to the guy today, it was 5.
No, but that's great. And that's part of the process. And I loved what you did something we talk about on here all the time too. When people want you to lower the price, don't just lower your price in a vacuum, right? Like, okay, I can do it for less, but you're not going to get this. Like you take something away that really like psychologically lets people know that your pricing isn't just arbitrary, right? That they don't know why they don't think it's arbitrary, but it really sends the message that it's not arbitrary. Like, yeah, I can do that, but this is what we're going to do. So awesome. Sean wants to know, you're not using an automatic dialer, are you?
No, if up until this point. So my original go high level numbers were coming up as spam. And I noticed that the first day. Mm-hmm. So I did my first 10 or 15 calls with go high level. And then I switched purely to my cell phone. You don't need and
just
I think that's important to know.
Just do it. I love it.
Just use your cell phone because if you don't want to pay for a go high level or if you don't want to learn the systems, you can still make all of this work with just Google Maps and your phone. And I was telling Richie over coffee yesterday, even if you don't have a website yet, you don't even need a website. You just need a LinkedIn because when people are just like, okay, how do we find you? Are you a real person? I'm just like, find me on LinkedIn. You'll see all my contacts there. I have over 500 connections. They were even more interested in my LinkedIn than they were my website.
That's a really interesting
LinkedIn account, a cell phone, and Google Maps. You can start generating revenue. The biggest thing is getting over your fear. That's it.
Yeah, that's really great. That's really great. One thing I want to mention, because I know we're coming up on the top of the hour here, and I have a couple more questions for you. I want to get through some of these, but one thing I want to mention is we recently did a promotion or opened up Remote Millionaires for a little bit. That's over. But one of the things that we've been talking about this week in our emails, if you haven't seen, is we actually have a special trial for the Shark Alliance, which the Shark Alliance, like Liz mentioned earlier, really is, I think, one of our more rated things that we have in our community because it's not expensive. It really does have a ton of stuff in it. Everything from prospecting to getting your own agency website set up to building a team. It's all in there. And we even have this thing called the Path to Six Figures, which are levels that you go through, and we give you everything along the way. It's really it really is a high value thing, and we're running a special. I think we have a $1 trial going for it right now. And if you haven't checked it out, or maybe you checked it out in the past, but you haven't looked at it again, you should check it out. I'm going to put a link at the bottom of the screen here that's going to scroll by. You can go to offlinesharks.com/$1 plus, and you can see that special offer. There's also coaching calls, depending on what level you're at. There's a free level. We have Shark Alliance Plus, and we have the Elite. So if you're in the Plus, there's one coaching call a month. If you're in the Elite, there's one coaching call a week. Dorn, our Megalodon here in the community, does those coaching calls. We have guests on all the time. It really is, I think, one of our more underrated assets and valuable things we have. And man, for $1, you'd be crazy not to at least go try it, check it out. So if you go to offlinesharks.com/$1 plus, you can see that there. And then I want to go through some of these comments here. So James wants to know, are you getting lots of people that hang up on you?
So I've personally I made a bunch of calls today even. I made around now 430 calls and over the span of just like a couple weeks. And I've only had 2 people hang up on me. And
That's
like the
another
one
fear in
was
the
only
beginning,
one
right?
true hang up. The other one was like, I'm sorry, like my phone's ringing and I could hear the phone ringing in the
Yeah.
background. So there was just only one hang up.
Yeah. Have you had anybody that's been particularly brutal?
No, but then again, I have a different perspective. I'm in New York. Forget about it. You're in the way. You're not walking
Yeah.
fast enough.
Yeah.
It's just like,
Yeah.
so I'm used to people being like very, what do you want?
Yeah.
Like especially working with like in unions and
You
politics.
don't
Like,
take it personally. That's the other thing, not taking that stuff personally. Because it's
yeah.
really easy to take it personally when you first hear it. Another thing that a mentor of mine told me was like, if you get somebody on the phone and they're just like really being, you know, uh, combative or whatever, you go, hey, let me ask you a question. Do you know who I am? And they'll be like, no. And then you just hang up. You're like, good. And then you just hang up. So I always thought that was funny. Anyway. So this is, I think, JT right here. He said he just closed 10 minutes ago a 7,211 site for a beauty and skin care site. Congratulations, JT.
Nice.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Let me see here. I know I have lots of comments. So Christopher, what's the average sales for a home services jackpot site? I can kind of answer this a little bit. So one of the strategies we teach, obviously, is to, especially if you're new and you're trying to get traction, right? If you're new and you're trying to get traction, start on the lower side. And like I said, every time you make a couple sales, you raise the price. We have, we started at 500. We sell those same sites now for 1,500. We have a lot of members and remote millionaires that started lower and now are getting really good money. So I don't really have an average over all of that, but I know like Dan Lesser, he closed one recently that he sold, I think, for 500 pounds, but he was able to upsell them to a 479 per month SEO package with that. So that's the other kind of part of home services jackpot that Liz will be looking to layer in as she goes, is now that we have these people that we're doing these sites where we can go back to them and see if we can help them in other ways, email marketing, social media, at whatever our other services are, to get some recurring built in off of those. And that's a very effective strategy as well. So yeah, I hope that answers your question, Chrissy. Let me see. Fortunes in the follow-up, somebody said. JT Saren, let's see. Let me look for some other. Oh, here's one. Enrique said, Liz, do you charge the same? No. So I think you've just been a variety of pricing just to see what you can get, right?
Well, it's not to see what I can get. It's whatever my brain wants to like fart out on the phone call. Like it's just like what. But the biggest thing for now, for me at least, is getting the reps in to be good at being on the phone. And so if I blurt out $200 and I make a sale, I feel as though I win just as much as if I blurt out $600 and I make a sale.
Yeah.
Mostly because mindset is everything. And not to get meta about everything, but it's just like, it's that hurdle of getting on the phone and making the sale. That's the real win, because that's the thing that's going to carry me through my agency business. And so like in the beginning, it's 200 now, it's maybe 600. When I get a little bit more comfortable, I do want to increase it. I do want to increase it to 750 or at least like 1,200 when I'm on the phone with people. Mostly because a lot of times people, they want to have different edits and stuff. But at this point right now, if they want edits, I'm a solid no. I'm like, no edits. It's like, you get the site as is.
Well, and that's something, again, that you can layer in as you get more comfortable with this, because we do have some our members that use the strategy of they have some various add-ons to what they're doing. So for instance, I know Dan, he actually buys a domain and sets the website up on the domain, and they buy the website and the domain from him with the hosting. And then he will add an additional charge if they want an email, which I thought was really clever. So he'll say, okay, well, do you want a, your name at this domain? Then that's an extra, whatever, $50. And he'll also add in like website maintenance. And then he talks to them about SEO and things like that. So, again, and this kind of goes back to what we talked about in the beginning about just doing. Mm-hmm. Whenever you see a strategy like this, there's 1,000 ways to build off of it. There are so many different, branches you could take with this, but you can't take any of those branches if you don't just start doing it and selling some. So your very first focus and goal, if you're out there watching this right now, should be to just sell some. Forget about all the other stuff. Forget about the add-ons. Forget about all that. Just get out there and sell some, sell 3 to 5 of them. Then start working out all that process. Like you'll have a way better mindset, feel about it. It'll be exciting to do all that stuff. So,
and like another thing is to just do it until you get comfortable in the space, that it's no longer like, oh, I need to do this thing, where you're actually being, proactive and creative, where it's just like, oh, I feel comfortable doing this, and now I have a different angle, or now I have a different way to do it. And it's just like, you can't get that way until it's like painting. Like my first, I don't paint, but my first, like if I were to have a first painting, it would probably be really bad.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be until like I painted several times and practiced with a mentor that I would have a really good painting, and I would come up with ideas to paint.
Yeah, I think that's, yeah. I was just watching my daughter's band concert the other day, and I remember the first day of school that we took her into her first band class, he had them playing some notes, and they sounded so terrible. And the teacher was like, I promise you, eventually this will sound like music. And I was like, and then the other night we were just at now she's been there for over a year, and they had their Halloween concert, and they were playing songs, and I recognized the songs, and I thought back to that moment of him saying, eventually this will sound like music. And like, he knew what was coming, you know what I mean? But when I was standing in that room, I thought, no way is this ever going to sound like music, you know what I mean? But it does. And it's that way with business and lots of things in life. So awesome. And I think you answered Sandy's question there, like your biggest aha kind of moment or point, besides getting on the phone. What clicked was really just the getting over the fear, right?
Yeah. It was getting comfortable of being in the space. So again, this is another thing that's a little out there, but when you're doing something that's new, you feel small in the space. You don't have command over the space. You could be sitting in your own chair even, but if you're doing something new, you don't have command over the space. So you can't have command over the conversation. And so, but how you do that is, doing it more and more and more and more. And then it's, yeah. I think that answered the question, right?
Yeah, no, you did. That's great. That's great. I'm going to scroll through and find some reference. I know we're going a little over, guys, and I want to respect Liz's time, but we'll get to some of these other ones. I'm going to rapid fire some off. So the home services jackpot sites have the content already. So that was part of what we built. So we designed and had all the content created for all the various niches. And so when we go to sell the site, the content's already there. You just have to like update the logo, the phone number, some little things like that. So it's all included. But this goes back to how you branch out. You could offer for an extra fee to add custom content or custom images or things like that if you want. James said, this is a great interview. So you're doing a good job. Let me see. Christopher wanted to know, is there a hosting charge? So Christopher, that again is up to you. You can either have them set up their own hosting account where they just pay that and you just put the site on there if you want less, if you don't want to deal with it so much. But we do have some members that, and I used to do this in the beginning with these sites. I would say, look, it's $500 and that includes 1 year of hosting. And then at the end of the year, you're just going to pay me $19 a month, billed annually for the hosting. So I would do that and then have a recurring that way. So you can do that as well. Let me look through here. Jacqueline says Shark Alliance is brilliant. I use it all the time. Look at that. Yay for New York. You got some forget about it's in there. That's good. Tony said, oh, love it. Oh, great job, Liz. Let me look through here and see if I can find. Oh, Andy Makar said for his home services jackpot, 1,500 is a great price point. That's good.
I'm definitely going to try that. Maybe I'll try that next week and I'll report back.
Yeah, James has to make sure you're asking your clients to leave you reviews.
You know, I started asking them that, but I want to have reviews on my Facebook, but my Facebook is brand new for my digital agency, and I have one review, and it's a spam account. I tried to get my Google My Business listing up, but it's really hard because I work out of my apartment, and I'm trying to get it up, but I'm trying to get some reviews.
Yeah. Marvin, I do not have any office phone system suggestions. I wish I did. Let me go through. Oh, I think we're almost in. Somebody said, thank you, Liz. Okay, awesome. And yes, Liz is in New York. Michael, Liz is in New York. And yeah, so you can watch this recording of this interview in the Facebook group. We always post these after this, so you can see that in there. And yeah, we got through all the questions. So I know we went a little over today, guys, but Liz, I really appreciate you taking time to come and hang out with us. And
this was so fun.
I mean, I have to tell you, it really warms my heart to be on this call with you talking about this after the call we had a few weeks ago.
Oh, yeah, I was stressed. I'm so
excited for you. It's like, it's so great. I'm so excited, and it's awesome to see. So, I mean, keep up the good work. We're going to do one more thing before we go. And, well, this will tell you what it is.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, money, money.
Dollar, dollar. Dollar, dollar. Ching, ching, bling, bling, got the chatter. You ain't talking money, then you're talking no matter.
Now, Liz, you can see me in the green room there. You know it is not me laughing, correct? You can see that is not me laughing in the background. That was not me laughing. Every show, we like to give away some Cash App money for people that go to the shout out post and leave a good job and an awesome work. So let me find where we put this here. So our winners today are Enrique Fernandez and Doug Page. So congratulations, guys. Congratulations. Somebody from our team will be reaching out, or you can just drop your Cash App or PayPal in the stream here, and we'll get you that Cash App money. Congratulations. Shushan, it's all good about the banner. I hope Shushan's been a little under the weather, and she's still like working away. So thank you, Shushan. Get better, feel better. It's all good. And yeah, Liz, thank you so much for coming on here. And I'm looking forward. I hope we get to meet up when Nick and I are out in the New York area in April next year.
And I have one more thing to say. With the Shark Alliance, and not to have like a sales pitch, but if you're on the fence, it's only $1, and I have learned so much from that. I actually upsold a client with what I learned from the retargeting one. Then there's the yellow brick road, like there's which is really important if you want to build and scale. And all of this is like it's all in like an easy it's like a little online marketing university that you have there. It's like Full Sail University. But no, I loved it. I mean, I was a part of the Shark Alliance for like 2 weeks, and I was like, all right, I'm going to join Remote Millionaire. But
well, we're glad you did.
Throw that in there.
Well, I appreciate that. We're glad you did. I'm super glad to see the traction you're getting and all that stuff. I look forward to talking to you in the Slack channel and talking to you again. And if you guys have any questions for Liz, you can pop them in the Facebook group. She's in there hanging out too. We really appreciate you being here. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you all for hanging out with us. And if you want to check out the Shark Alliance, just go to offlinesharks.com/$1 plus, and you can see it there. With that, I'm going to cue out the outro, and I will see you next Friday. Nick will be here. Same Shark time, same Shark channel, and we'll see you then, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Stay safe. Practice Aloha.
You've been watching the Aloha Marketing Jam Session, your weekly marketing live show, always bringing you the latest strategies and tactics to build your remote empire from anywhere in the world. Don't forget to like, comment, and share this stream. You can stay up to date throughout the week with the Remote Millionaires podcast at remotemillionaires.com/podcast and Nick's YouTube videos at nickponte.com/YouTube. We'll be back here next Friday for another live show. Until then, aloha.